guys, welcome back to the Halfway Homestead. So we're in, I don't know which order we're going to put these in, but today we're going to talk about adding the supers and when you add the supers to your hive, why we add them, and what to look for. If you haven't seen the other videos, this is going to be in a playlist, so we're going to put all these together, all the bee stuff, and as we continue through the summer and document our experiences, everything will be there, so you should just be able to go through and see them in order and how we went through. So with that, let's talk about supers.
Okay, so when do you put the supers on? The supers are where the excess honey that the hive creates is stored by the bees. Honeybees are the only bee variety that we know of that creates excess food. Bumblebees make food, yellow jackets make food, but it's just enough for the colony, and sometimes it's not quite enough, depending on how the winter is. So we're blessed with honeybees. It's not something that we created in breeding like we do with cows and sheep and so forth. It's something that nature created. So when you want to put your honey supers on, if you're just starting out and this is your very first hive and all of your equipment is brand new, which means there's no comb on it, there's no brood that the queen has had a chance to lay yet, you've just installed your queen, that's not the time to put the honey supers on. You got to wait till that hive develops. So typically we get our new packages of bees in the springtime, and we install them in hives that failed or new hives that we're creating. And once that happens, it takes 6 to 8 weeks for that hive to get really going. The queen's going to start laying eggs. The workers are going to tend those eggs. The colony's going to expand. You're feeding them sugar water at the point where the upper box is starting to get filled out and you're seeing a lot of brood and there's a lot more bees than when you started with. There's honey in the hive, there's pollen in the hive, which you'll see it's a yellow solid material that's in the comb. Then you can take the cover off, get your smoker going, smoke up the bees good, and remove your inner cover. You're no longer going to feed your bees because you don't want sugar water for honey. Put that on top of there, please. So the first thing we have to put down is a queen excluder. And you're saying, oh my gosh, this looks terrible. Well, this is one that I've used, and the bees will actually take and then deposit wax on this. So rather than cleaning it, I thought I'd show it to you to give you a sense of what's going on and what to expect. So if you open your hive and you see this, it's not the end of the world. I normally clean this in the fall when I take it off for the winter. And I'll throw it in my deep freezer, my chest freezer, not my refrigerator freezer, and let it get really cold and hard, and then you can take and smack it, and a lot of this wax will just break right off. Now you want to save the wax, because beeswax is an important material that you can make candles with. People will buy it, depending on whether you're into arts and crafts and stuff. I use beeswax for my drawers and my dressers at home. They have wood slides to them.
Lip balm? Lip balm's another one, it's a good one.
Oh yeah, all kinds of different facial creams and lotions are based on beeswax. So it's something you definitely want to save, and if you don't use it, you can always find somebody who'll buy it. So we'll assume that I've cleaned this all up for the current year, and we're going to put that down. The next thing that we need to do is to take and put down a honey super. So we typically call these deeps, and these are supers. The frames on these are much shorter than the deeps. As you can see here, they're about 2/3 the size.
So question, if I can interrupt real quick. You called this a queen extruder?
Excluder.
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 So why is it called that? What does that mean?
Because if the queen will normally start laying her brood in the highest point of the hive. So, hang on just a second for that. What will happen is that she'll start laying eggs where you're going to have honey that you're going to want to take and use. So all of that brood is taking up cells that you don't want to have it take up. Secondly, when you go to pull your honey out, extract your honey, you're going to be killing off a lot of the brood, and you have brood in the honey, and you have to strain that out. It's just not the thing to do. So the slots on this are small enough that the bees can get through, but they're the queen can't, because she's bigger than the bees, so she can't not get through there. So it keeps her laying all of her eggs in the deeps, and all the brood is raised there, and everything happens in there. And the only thing that happens in the honey supers is honey making.
Okay. Cool.
Normally we put 2 of these boxes on. I like starting with just one initially, because what tends to happen is that the upper box gets all the honey initially, and then they go to the lower box. So if it's a year where there's not a lot of nectar out there, I had a drought last year where I live, and we had no honey production whatsoever. My neighbors did not fare very well either because of the drought. So there was no point in having 2 of these boxes on there. So I usually start with 1, and when I see it starting to get full, then I'll add the second one, and I'll put it on top of the first one. These here, the color of the wax is going to be much lighter, a very light brown or tan, whereas the wax, as you may have saw in the previous video, that the frame that has all the honey on it is very dark, dark brown. And that's the difference. So this is clean wax, and that's considered dirty wax. It still can be cleaned up. If you use a solar wax melter, the sun actually burns off a lot of that, and the wax will turn a much lighter color. Huh. But the premium cosmetic products, always come from this wax, from the top, because it's very clean and it's very good to use. So, other than that, go ahead.
Before you close this up, what's all this red stuff that we kind of see, this is amber colored stuff here?
This is propolis, and the bees actually use this as an antiseptic. It helps keep the hive clean and germ free.
Okay.
I can't see that in the camera.
No?
No,
So
it's going to be very hard to see. This is propolis right here.
Right, that's...
In the corner of this frame, we're going to try to give you a little bit of a close-up. This brown colored, it's not really brown, it's more of a rose color, dark rose color, is the propolis. And some of it was put on this frame right here.
So the bees themselves create that.
Yep.
As a way to protect the hive.
Yeah, they'll put it on a lot of surfaces. They also use it as to seal up the joints where the hives meet, and so they'll put it there as well.
Okay.
And beyond that, we put our cover back on, and other than normal observation, by the way, the slot in this case goes down, not up.
Oh.
This gives the bees 2 entrances they can use, but it also means 2 entrances they have to defend if there becomes a war between 2 hives. A war between 2 hives is the last thing you ever want to see, because you're going to lose a lot of bees, the other person is going to lose a lot of bees, and it's going to be a big setback for both hives. So if that were to happen in one of my hives and I was home and noticed it happening, which a lot of times you're not because we all have to work, I would take this and turn it this way, and I don't have one with me, but there's a bar I can put across the entrance down below here, and it will have just a slot in it, maybe this wide, and that's what all the bees have to go through to get in the hive. So now all they have to do is defend this slot. They're not defending this entire opening down here and trying to defend this opening up here. They're just defending that one area. So the war pretty much goes away because they can't, the opposing team can't get enough troops in to take over, and the other team just plays defense until they give up. And we put our top cover on.
You hear that, sports fans? Defense wins championships.
So you always want to try to make sure that these boxes are squared up. The queen excluder that I have, the brand that I have, is slightly larger than the frames, but that will overhang a little bit. But beyond that, I just want to keep everything square. It minimizes any rainwater it gets in, anything like that. And don't forget to put a rock on top. I had one of my best hives a few years ago end up getting drowned in a heavy downpour because I was in a hurry on a Saturday to do other things, and I did all my checks of my hive and put everything back together and forgot to put the rock on top. Monday morning we had a big thunderstorm come through, torrential rain. Tuesday I went out to check my hive and the cover's off, and I went inside and all the brood's dead. Most of the bees were laying in the bottom dead. Wasn't a good thing. Thank you.